Spain is famous for its passionate culture, stunning landscapes, enviable weather, and delicious tapas. For many, it promises the dream of a new life, filled with beauty, adventure, and vibrant experiences. But what's the reality of moving to Spain? While there are undeniable perks, many expats face unexpected challenges, complex tax laws, an increasing cost of living, and even growing local resentment toward over-tourism. But what's the truth? Well, in this video, we'll break down every aspect of moving to Spain, from the complex tax laws to the challenging cultural differences, looking at the good, the bad.
In many parts of Spain, rental costs have risen steeply in recent years.
And everything in between.
And it's time to pursue that greatest of Spanish traditions, tapas.
Spain presents a varied but vivid image of lifestyle, one that is tempting to dive into. The country's landscapes are rich and beautiful, from the rolling hills and sweeping coasts of Basque Country to the Sierra Morena Mountains, Tabernas Desert, and crystal clear oceans of Andalusia. Spain also has some of the most beautiful and culturally unique cities on earth. Madrid, the country's capital, is one of Europe's sunniest cities. It boasts opulent Baroque architecture, world-class art galleries such as the Prado Museum, iconic landmarks, and pumping nightlife. Barcelona to the east is the capital of Spain's autonomous Catalonia region. Catalans speak their own language and bring a distinct independent flair to their city, such as the legendary Gaudi architecture and the world-famous football team. If you're a lover of fine dining, the city is also home to 28 Michelin-starred restaurants. Although surprisingly, it's not the best place to eat in Spain. San Sebastian in the Basque region to the north is home to world-class surfing, beautiful urban beaches, and delicious pintos tapas. Anthony Bourdain once said of San Sebastian that there was no better place to eat in Europe.
San Sebastian is food town. There are more chefs, more cooks, more food crazy people per square mile in San Sebastian than anywhere else in Spain, possibly the world.
But what about the people? The Spanish are known for being laid back and friendly and enjoy an exceptional quality of life. Spain actually has one of the highest life expectancies at 84 years, and it's also second on the remote index for work-life balance. In short, Spain is vibrant and rich in natural and cultural beauty, so it's no wonder it has a seductive hold on those looking to move. But as with most things, the reality is never quite as it appears, as moving to Spain and the country itself can present significant challenges. When moving to Spain, one of the first reality checks is residency, because there's a lot of paperwork and a lot of bureaucracy. But don't worry, it is manageable as long as you know what to expect. So Spanish residency comes in two forms. You have temporary residence permits, which means you can stay in the country for more than 90 days and less than 5 years. Then once you've hit the 5-year threshold, and as long as you haven't left the country for more than 6 months within a year or more than 10 months across those 5 years, then you can apply for the permanent residence permit. This means you could stay in Spain indefinitely. And for most, this is the goal, but how do you get it? So it begins with temporary residence, and this permit is perfect for people moving to Spain and for all kinds of reasons, including entrepreneurs, students, retirees, remote workers, or even families joining loved ones. To qualify, you'll need to meet some basic requirements, like having a clean criminal record, health insurance, and proof that you can support yourself financially. And here's a quick checklist of the main documents you're going to need. And depending on your situation, you might also need specific documents, like a marriage certificate if you're applying to join family, or proof of enrollment if you're a student. So when applying, there are essentially two pathways. The first covers most common visas like work permits, student visas, and the non-lucrative visa. If this applies to you, you'll need to start the process outside of Spain by visiting the Spanish consulate or embassy in your home country. Once your visa is approved, you'll have 1 month to travel to Spain, finalize your residency at the local immigration office, and then obtain your 1-year foreign identity card. The second is for people applying under Spain's entrepreneur law. This includes visas for entrepreneurs, investors, and highly qualified workers. The big advantage here is that you can start your application from within Spain and even on a tourist visa. Once your application is approved, you can schedule an appointment at the police office to get your 3-year residence card. And if you're applying from outside of Spain, you'll start with a 1-year visa, which you can upgrade to a 3-year permit after arriving in the country. The processing time depends on your chosen pathway, but under the general immigration regime, it takes about 2 to 3 months. And if you're applying under the entrepreneur law, it's faster and usually processed within 30 to 60 days. Costs are also affordable, but they will vary according to where you live, which visa you apply for, and of course whether you need legal support and extra services such as translating. This table is from the Immigration Advice Services, and it gives us a good indication of what we can expect in terms of application costs and processing times. And once you've got your visa and you arrive in Spain, you'll just have a few final steps to complete. Book an appointment at the local immigration office or police station, submit your biometrics and any additional documents, and then you'll receive your TIE card, which is your official ID and proof of legal residency. And once you've got your visa, you can now dive into the country. But where do you begin? As a whole, Spain has a pretty varied cost of living that is mostly cheaper than places like the UK and the United States. Let's start with the popular cities. In Madrid, a single person's monthly costs without rent are listed at around 890 euros, with rent around 1100 to 1500 per month for a single bedroom apartment. In Barcelona, costs are similar with 906 euros for monthly costs and 1000 to 1300 for a single bedroom apartment. However, in a less popular but very beautiful city like Seville, monthly costs are around 780 euros for a single person and 670 to 1000 for a single bed apartment. This is an attractive option if you want to enjoy Spanish beauty and culture, but also save money. Now, the Spanish economy can present some challenges, and there are important statistics that you should be aware of. If we look at employment data from the OECD, we can see Spain has a significantly higher unemployment rate than the average at 11.7%. And that's 1 in 10 people not having a job. And for those that are employed, things aren't that positive either. Spain is among the countries whose real wages, so wages adjusted for inflation, have declined the most since the beginning of the pandemic. The country also suffers from higher year-on-year inflation compared to the Eurozone. As for non-EU nationals, employment sits at around 62.9%. But what kind of salary can you expect? Well, the average salary in 2023 was reported to be 30,655 euros, with other sources putting it at around 27,000. And while you should take averages with a grain of salt, bear these figures in mind and compare them to the cost of living in cities like Madrid and Barcelona. Without a higher salary, costs will be tight, dramatically decreasing your quality of life. And when you factor in high unemployment, this can be concerning. That said, if you're lucky enough to be working online under the digital nomad visa, you can benefit from lower taxes, which can offset a higher cost of living. But even with that advantage, it's always a good idea to come prepared with a solid financial foundation, like an emergency fund that you can tap into if needed. Now, if you have savings in another currency and need to exchange them to euros, then there's one tool that can help you find the best rates and make sure you don't fall victim to hidden fees. The Monito app compares hundreds of providers in real time, so we'll show you which have the best exchange rates and the lowest fees. And let's face it, every euro is going to count when you're settling into a new country. So whether you're exchanging your savings into euros or sending money to pay for real estate or tuition, always check the Monito app beforehand. We'll make sure you get the best rates and the best deal every time you transfer. I'll put a link for the app in the description box below. And with that said, if you've got work lined up, money in your account, and a city you've fallen in love with, you'll need somewhere to live. Finding affordable housing in Spain can be a complex task, and across the country, and despite decreased demand and a weakening economy, generally speaking, house prices are rising, with Andalusia, Navarra, the Canary Islands, and Madrid seeing the largest year-on-year price increases. And this property boom has left locals unable to afford housing, which, as you can imagine, has caused a wave of public anger and protest. Rents in Barcelona, a city at the center of the anger, have increased by 17.8%, and locals have directed their outrage towards Airbnb, tourist housing, and tourists in general. These protests and local outrage can appear hostile and xenophobic, but in truth, if you're moving to Spain, you're not a tourist temporarily taking up housing. You're someone who's living in the country, contributing to the economy through work or your savings, and joining the culture. This will put you well out of the category of tourism or anyone making life difficult for Spaniards. Who knows, in a few years you might even be joining the protests. And obviously larger, popular cities like Barcelona and Madrid are going to have higher rental costs compared to smaller cities. And if you're in a position where you can be flexible on where you live, then look to more rural areas or cities like Alicante, Granada, and Murcia. But what if you're in the lucky position to buy housing? What does this process look like? Well, first, you'll need an identification number or NIE. This is essential for opening bank accounts, buying a property, or starting a business. It can be obtained by applying at the Spanish consulate, immigration office in Spain, or at police stations. You'll also need your TIE, aka your foreigner ID card. And that's not all. You'll want your Q or CUE, so your immigration user certificate, which is a code that you'll need for administration procedures. Taxes and costs of buying a house also vary, so there's a lot to budget for, and it's important to make sure that you have the money set aside before the process begins, or you'll just be slowing yourself down. In terms of finding a house, I would go to a property broker rather than a real estate agent. Agents will only show you what's on their books, so they're coming at the search with their interests in mind, and brokers tend to fight in your corner. And once you've found a property, you'll need to make a reservation agreement and a letter of intent and pay all the necessary taxes. I recommend you do your due diligence and have all of your funds and paperwork prepared in advance so this process goes as smoothly as possible. And this table will give you an idea of the costs per square meter. As you can see, Barcelona, Madrid, Valencia are far more expensive than cities like Murcia or Murcia. I know I'm British, I want to say Murcia, but I also want to say Murcia. Located in the southeast, it's a city that should give you hope if you're looking to move to Spain on a budget. The cost of living and housing is far more affordable, and the weather is phenomenal. The World Health Organization even considers its climate to be one of the best in the world for people with asthma and arthritis. So whether your budget or your bones are your concern, Murcia is well worth considering if your dream is to move to Spain, but you can't afford to live in a city such as Madrid. But what about the experience once you've moved into the country? And how easy is it to integrate into the community? One of the first things you see when you move to Spain is the difference in Spanish customs and social norms. Chief among these is their famously long days, with dinner time usually taking place at around 10 p.m, as well as the naming traditions. Everyone has both their father's and mother's surnames, and women also don't change their maiden names when they marry. Spanish people tend to be very passionate, opinionated, and loud speakers, and are very physical with their gestures and touch. Spanish culture in general is extremely family orientated. Children live with their parents longer, and families live close to one another. You can expect Spanish people to be very social, with the attitude, mi casa es tu casa, my house is your house, and so you could expect invitations to late dinners at restaurants and shared tapas and drinks late into the night. With this in mind, making friends in Spain can be easier than in other countries. Positive attitude, saying yes to invitations, and being unafraid to put yourself out there in expat groups will help you on your way. Tools like the Monito app can also provide a valuable starting point when settling in. Our Life in Hub will give you a checklist to help you successfully adjust to your new life, and we'll also share resources and tools that we think will help you along the way. This could include online banking recommendations in Spain, eSIMs for making calls and texts, and language learning apps like Babbel. We also give you direct access to the best discounts, and with Babbel, right now, using our app, you could get up to 70% off. But do remember that language learning apps like this, while they're great for starting out, should just be a supplement. And if you're serious about speaking Spanish, then you should consider tuition once you're in Spain. And of course, make sure to surround yourself with people that speak the language fluently. So the healthcare is among the best in the world, and anyone living in Spain or the EU or EFTA has access to Spanish healthcare. Visitors from outside of these regions will require health insurance. Healthcare is funded by Social Security, but some specialized medical care and prescriptions will need to be self-funded or paid for by insurance. Expats who have become legal residents can apply for a Spanish health card at their local medical center, which will give them access to their healthcare throughout the country. Similar to healthcare, Spanish education is supported by the government. Primary and secondary school are both free and compulsory. Graduation from secondary education gives students a certificate to pursue higher education if they want, and the education quality is considered very good. And for expats, Spain is home to many excellent international schools. To enroll in public school, you will need proof of residence, a birth certificate, and previous academic records. Also be aware that not all public schools will have English language support. Regardless of the school you choose, make sure your children have a great Spanish tutor. This will help them immensely with their ability to thrive in the country and develop social circles. There are a few different taxes to pay in Spain. The first is income tax, which is broken down into general taxable income, money you gain from employment. And then there's savings taxable income, money you gain from things like interest, dividends, and capital gains. This table will give you an idea of income tax rates. However, if you qualify as a digital nomad, you are entitled to some tax breaks. The second is inheritance tax and gift tax. This varies based on each autonomous region. If you own high-value assets worldwide that are worth more than $700,000, you're also subject to a third tax called wealth tax. However, if you are a resident, you're given an additional allowance of 300,000 euros. There is also capital gains tax on asset sales and VAT on all goods and services. Lastly, if you're a homeowner, you want to be aware of property tax. There is an annual tax on property, income tax on any rental income, and the aforementioned capital gains and wealth tax. But as with most countries, if you pay your taxes on time, you'll have nothing to worry about. But one thing I would worry about is potential double taxation. Make sure you look into double tax treaties so you do not end up being taxed in Spain and back home. For example, under these treaties, you might be able to offset taxes paid in Spain against your tax liability in your home country. So let's say you're a US citizen. You'll still need to file US taxes no matter where you live, but the US-Spain treaty can help you reduce your overall burden by allowing you to claim credits for taxes paid in Spain. Honestly, given the nuances and depths of tax law, I'd say it's essential to consult with a professional who understands both Spanish and international tax laws, just to ensure that you're in full compliance and taking advantage of these treaties. So by now, I hope you know the basics of moving to Spain, as well as some of the challenges and difficulties and also rewards that the country has to offer. But before you take the final step, it's worth checking out stories from people who have done it already, so you can find out whether it went right or whether the country isn't all it's romanticized to be. Forums like expatforum.com and Brit Expats can be valuable resources. These forums can offer nuanced views of life in Spain, such as this thread, where they detail that while life in Spain is great, it can feel no better than back home when the allure wears off, or that there is little help for children with learning difficulties, and the fact that tough administration makes life no more relaxing in Spain than anywhere else. These will give you a deeper look into the realities of living in Spain. But as with most things, the only way to truly know is to take the plunge yourself.